Hello and welcome to the At Odds Pod. We are back. The FA Cup weekend is no more. It is Premier League once again, and we could not be happier about it. I am here, Sam Farley, as usual, with my brilliant co-hosts, Mr. Jake Ashton and Mr. Sam Boswell. Jake, how are you doing after that humiliating League Cup exit?
Oh, mate, I am in a bad way. I know every single week you guys say to me, oh, it's not all doom and gloom. You spot the champions, blah, blah, blah. But that performance in the Carabao Cup, mate, was absolutely embarrassing. So the sooner we get it over with and talk about the derby, where I hope we have a better performance, the better, I think.
And then, Southampton obviously won that game. They won their last game as well, didn't they, Sam, against Crystal Palace?
Yeah, Jake's in good company because obviously we're champion-like, albeit not champion, and they got the better of us and knocked us out the cup, which is really disappointing, actually. Palace, touch wood, if we come through the next couple of games, we're 25-1 for relegation. You'd like to think we're going to clear that hurdle. A cup run actually would have been really attractive for a side that, has probably got players that need a bit of a run out as well. But we played a really strong team and credit Southampton. We took the lead and they came back, and it's quite disappointing, really. Once you're out of all the cups now, we've got a really tough run of games, and I don't know, that 25-1, I nearly put it up as a bet because I think it will shorten with the likes of going to play United, City, Newcastle. But realistically, as long as we can pick up something from those 4 games, we'll be safe with much easier ties to come. But I am, you sort of, your season's going to feel, if we can get 3 wins before March, our season's going to be done, basically. Yeah, quite boring, quite disappointing.
Well,
but there we go.
You mentioned some of your upcoming fixtures there being Man United and Man City, and that gives us a very tenuous link into the first game we're going to talk about today. Saturday, 12:30 p.m, the Manchester derby. Eric Ten Hag's plucky Reds, as I've seen them called online, versus Pep Guardiola's frankly bored-looking Man City, if Wednesday night was anything to go by, with Pep just sort of staring at his feet for most of the first half, it seemed. Look, I think, first of all, we have to go over for the best bet to our resident Man City expert, our Man City season ticket holder, Mr. Jake Ashton. What do you think of this game?
Right, so this game could be absolutely anything, to be honest, lads. I've been trying my hardest not to put up some sort of bet that involves United to get a result against us, to be honest, because they're in really good form. They're playing well. The games that I've seen them play, they've looked good. Casemiro seems like he's just fully bossing their whole team now, to be honest. Every time he starts and plays, he just looks insane, as we've all known that he'd come in and look well, to be honest, because he's a world-class player. But Marcus Rashford, he is the guy who has been scoring goals, and I've put in a bet for him, Rashford and Haaland, both to score in this game at 10-1. And this game does strike me as having goals written all over it. The home derby was the last time I actually thought we played really well, and I just clicked, and we beat them 6-3 in that game, and it was just a really good performance. And we need some sort of performance in this game after the midweek exit of the Carabao Cup, just to push on and get the fans back in a better place, to be honest. Rashford and Haaland both to score is my pick for this one at 10-1, which I think is a big price for 2 players. Again, Haaland, all he needs is one chance and he'll score, and Rashford has just been on fire. So, yeah, I think that's a good bet.
I like it. And I think, Boz, that kind of brings us neatly to your bet as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this was a bigger price. Originally 9-2, Marcus Rashford anytime. Now 7-2. I still think that's probably too big for a man in great form, turn up for the big occasion, United at home. I really wouldn't want to play the out right here. I know you have, Sam. I'm looking forward to hearing your cogent argument for City. It just feels like a bit of a trap for me, this game, if you were betting on the win market. It just doesn't sit right with me. So I wanted something that was kind of a 90-minute bet, and I perceived that to be value at 92. I still think that 7-2 Rashford's a good price for that. I'll probably maybe have a dabble on the cards once the prices are out for those. We know the team. I really am reluctant to do anything around card betting now till we know team news. I don't know whether it's just the post-World Cup. I'm finding it a lot harder to predict lineups. even in league games. And, you know, it tends to be players that pick up cards would be your fullbacks. I'd be quite interested to see what price Dallo is, but I think he's been injured now, so he's probably not going to be playing. So, yeah, I'll be having a dabble there. But Rashford, anytime, 7-2 will do me.
I like that. Well, you kind of mentioned it there. My bet for this, I think it's weird. I can't believe I'm saying this. Man City seem to be, despite they are favourites, they're 17-20, which I think is a really good price. They seem to be, everybody's talking about them like they're coming into this the underdogs now because they've had a couple of, bad results. This is still an absolutely stacked team. And let's not forget that Carabao Cup team, it was nowhere near full strength. I know they bought on the likes of De Bruyne kind of just after half-time or at half-time, but come on, like it's not that bad. People are talking like this is the end of City or something. They're just taking a bit of time, and I think they haven't been helped by just a few injuries, a bit of inconsistency at the back potentially that they haven't had before. And I think there's a wider discussion that maybe we can have somewhere down the line about whether Haaland helps or hinders this team, which I think is quite an interesting point because I've got a feeling that, I mean, goals-wise, you can't really knock it, but they're always looking for that ball into the front man, whereas they didn't necessarily do that before. And I think defensively, there is a question about whether they're playing more kind of, maybe not 50-50 balls, but the types of balls they're playing now potentially lead them to be hit on the counter slightly more than they used to be. Because I don't really remember seeing City being hit on the counter in the past that much, but it seems to happen quite a bit now.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
So I'd say that is the kind of big issue, especially when I'd say Man United in terms of countering are probably the best team in the country, just with the pace they have up there. But ultimately, I do think quality tells. This is a team that they know how to win. This United team don't really know how to win against City. I know they pulled up a few results recently or occasionally in the past 5-6 years, but not overly consistently. And they've been hammered on multiple occasions. The only thing that worries me is Pep going into his own head and doing something stupid. And there was some quotes from him about playing a weird lineup, kind of alluding to it. But I don't know whether this is all part of the mind games. I think he said something like he's not watched Man United yet or something along those lines.
Every week he plays a weird lineup, Farley. That's Pep, isn't it? The new year, new him has gone to new levels of weird, I think.
I just think you're going to get, I mean, you know what they could do. When you look at XG, they're miles ahead on XG. They're miles below on XG against, they are just a better team. And at 17-20, I'm more than happy to put my money on the reality of them being a better team rather than kind of worrying about this little hype wave that's going for Man United at the moment, personally.
But I'll tell you what, with it being a Manchester derby, I should be fully up for this and looking forward to it. But I am actually looking forward to North London derby even more, to be honest with you, lads. And that leads us straight into that game, which is the Sunday 4:30 game. I don't even know where to start with this one because all I can feel about is it being one of them games that is cards, goals. It's got absolutely everything in this one. Boz, do you want to start us off with your pick for this game?
Yeah, if you're saying that, Jake, I better put up the classic under 1.5 goals, under 1.5 cards, maybe. I don't know. I agree with you. I think for me, if Arsenal want to be perceived as these title contenders, these are the games they need to win. It's a North London derby. I get it. Spurs are going to be up for it. Spurs are a weird team to try and get right. I mean, I must confess, I watched the 90 minutes when they played Palace. Palace just didn't take their early chances and got punished. They left Harry Kane in too much space. It was pretty horrendous defending at times. And obviously Spurs cracked on and won 4-0. I don't think that tells the full tale. I'm not convinced that Spurs are this team that should be feared. But I can't leave even money about Harry Kane to score or assist alone at all. He thrives on these games. He'll play the full 90 minutes, so you kind of have that caveat in the bank. And just for a stats perspective, he's faced Arsenal 16 times in the league, won 6, drawn 5, lost 5. In those games, 14 goals, 2 assists. So if you average that out, it ticks the box that he's going to have one or other in a game. I don't think Spurs will win. I think it's probably going to be a draw, but that's kind of what stood out at the prices for me. Felt like an obvious pick. Really looking forward to this one. As you say, I always do seem to recall that North London derbies seem to fare better than things like Liverpool, Manchester United always stands out as a derby that gets overhyped and disappoints. For me, the North London derby should attract something. Really hope Conte doesn't end up playing about 9 defenders or anything too dull. Or if he does, I just hope Arsenal get an early goal and they have to open the game up a bit more. That would be my only concern. But yeah, I'm on the Harry Kane goal or assist bandwagon at evens for him to just do what he's done in the previous 16 fixtures.
Yeah, I'm fully on the Harry Kane hype too, and he's part of my bet, which is for Kane and Saka both to score and Arsenal to win, which is 20-1. This is a bet that I've tipped up quite a few times this season on the pod, and I've had a couple of winners on it around 20-1. I think it was like a Liverpool Spurs game or something like that, and then there was another game involving Liverpool. So there is previous with this bet, and it's a bet that I like because putting one of the teams to score just boosts the odds up so much. To win, boosts the odds up so much. And I do just think Arsenal will win. I've spent so much time this season trying to come off the Arsenal bandwagon and trying to hope that the wheels fall off of Arsenal. A bit similar to the Leicester season all them years ago. But I just can't see it happening. They've just impressed me week after week, and again, being a City fan, I can only hope that the wheels do fall off, but I just can't see it. Farley, your pick for this game is a card bet, and it looks like a tasty price for the player too.
Yeah, so originally I wasn't actually going to have a bet on this game because I can't really call the result, and I looked through a lot of the markets, and I couldn't really think of a way to go. And then I just quickly scanned the card market, literally as we were talking, and I saw Xhaka is at 39-20, so a little tad under 2-1. And I swear in the past for this game, he's been literally evens or even shorter than that. The guy is the biggest liability going for Arsenal, I think, when it comes to a card. And I think he has improved a lot in that area, to be honest with you. But I remember last season, I went to the Arsenal game. It was against Everton. And Dele Alli was playing. And the whole game, Xhaka was just doing this, like pushing him, like fouling him, like mouthing off. Like it was almost just to kind of get the fans on his side that he was getting on top of this Spurs player. And I think this is Xhaka just wants to be loved. And I think this is the sort of game where his discipline is an issue because I think he can't help himself. He will be fired up and he will inevitably kick off at somebody. And I think a yellow card under 2-1 it's a ridiculous price. I'd have it half that. So for me, I think that's probably best bet of the entire weekend for me.
I think it is a great price. I think if there was a most improved player award in the Premier League, I think Xhaka's got to be in the conversation surely because he's turned it around.
I mean, he looked like a guy that was holding the team back, and he's been really good.
To go from swearing at the fans and throwing the shirt down and ripping the captain's armband off to where he is now is.
Not many would come back from that, Jake. I think it's fair to say. So fair play to him, but let's hope he can revert to type for Farley's bet on the big game in the North London derby. Right, next up it is our classic feature of banker, bust and draw. We try and pick out something we think will definitely win. We try and pick out something at a shortish price that we think will get beat. And guess what? We try and find a draw as well. Jake, I'm going to start off with you because I thought your banker looked actually a really fair price.
Yeah, so my banker for this week, I've got Brentford to beat Bournemouth at home. That's the Saturday evening game, 5:30 kickoff.
Only
Brentford,
you will be watching it outside of the neutrals, outside of the fans, Jake. That is
well,
5:30.
Yeah. It depends what happens in the early kickoff that day. If we win, then I'll be all over that game. I'll be wanting to watch every single football match that takes place that day. 3-5 Brentford are to win this game, and I think it's just such a nice price. If this was a 3:00 kickoff, I'd be putting this in Accas and having this in all my bets because it's just a great price. Brentford look a really good team when I've watched them. They lost in the FA Cup last weekend, but they rested so many players in that game, and they ended up being like 3-1 to win at home after the squads came out. But they'll have a full strength squad in this one against the Bournemouth team who they're just looking poorer and poorer every week. We praised Gary O'Neill on the pod when he came in after the first month because they were just, he looked like he turned it around and they were playing well. But now they just look absolutely average, and I think they're guaranteed to get relegated this season, to be honest. Brentford, my banker. Do you want me to go through the full list?
Yeah. Let's move through.
Yeah, so bust for this week has been a tough one because there's a lot of games where the odds are quite even for each side. But I've got Liverpool as my bust. They are favourites away at Brighton. That just strikes me as mad odds, to be honest, 21-20. I watched that Liverpool-Wolves game last week. Wolves should have won that game. If VAR was working properly, they would have won that game. Brighton 9-4. You can get as high as 3-1 in some places for Brighton to beat Liverpool at home, and those odds are just absolutely crazy to me. I think Brighton are really impressive, as hard as that probably is to hear, Boz, but they look a good team, and I just can't touch Liverpool at 21-20 in that game. And my draw for the week is Everton against Southampton. Now, I did originally pick this before the Southampton game against City where they beat us. I felt like it had draw written all over it, and I feel more confident of Southampton getting a result away at Everton this weekend now because they look like they're playing well under Nathan Jones, and the team actually starting to buy into his philosophy of just running. So, yeah, Everton Southampton to be a draw is my draw for the week, I think.
Okay, yeah, I like it, Jake. I can imagine with 20 minutes to go, if it's 0-0, 1-1, both sides kind of ending up nervously playing out for the point. Makes logical sense. Right, Farley, I want you banker, bust and draw. And we actually disagree on your banker, so kick off with that.
Yeah, so my banker is Newcastle. And I'm going to caveat this by saying and I guess this is partly because we have two big derbies between, four of the better teams in the league. I don't think there is a surefire banker this week that I would want to, if you said here's a grand, chuck it on something, I would really, I wouldn't want to do that anyway. I'd be so nervous. But this is one time it would terrify me. I couldn't do it. My bust is Liverpool. They're favourites, aren't they? But
yeah,
there's something about them just isn't right at the moment.
They're not Klopp's Liverpool at the moment, are they? Is that fair to say?
No, they just look leggy to me and not really with it. And the draw, Forest versus Leicester is a draw, and I think it's a really interesting game because probably one of the most interesting games actually, that aside from the derbies, in that both teams I think really need to win this. So I think that's going to be a proper blood and guts Premier League affair. But ultimately, I think the spoils could be shared in that one. Yeah,
interesting stuff. Well, I'll run through mine. Chelsea play Palace. Now, people will probably turn their nose up at the idea of Chelsea being back. But at some point, Potter's going to turn the corner. Palace have looked pretty moderate in recent games. If we're losing at home to Southampton with a fairly strong side versus a fairly changed Southampton side, it's quite hard. Chelsea aren't going to stay on this run forever. And at some point, Potter will have a bit of luck. I know the injuries are bad there. I'm not too bothered about Chelsea's injuries, let's be honest. They've got plenty of talent. I just think if they can score first and settle down, they'll be fine, Chelsea. And I think, unfortunately, I just don't think Palace at the moment are firing all cylinders. My draw, actually, my bust, I should say. I'm going to put City in there to bust. I just think of all the things at sort of odds-on-ish prices, kind of wouldn't want to touch them with a barge pole. And if you gave me double chance United, I'd probably be quite happy. So I think City would take a point as well, if I'm honest with you, after the week they've had. Right, and then we move on to my draw. I've gone for Newcastle Fulham, I should say, as a draw. We're recording this a bit frustratingly ahead of the Fulham-Chelsea game. So up to that point, Fulham have had 4 wins in a row. And I know Mitro may be a bit of a doubt, but I do think they're a side that have got something about them. It's not ideal playing the Thursday before having to play on the weekend. I do get that. Newcastle had the extra day's rest. But, if Chelsea put 2 or 3 past them, or they get a point, they'll be buzzing going into the weekend. And I think Newcastle are a good side, but they have dropped points in the past. They're not infallible. And, whilst they're out the FA Cup, they are going to be quite focused on that Carabao semi-final. I think at some point something is going to wobble with Newcastle. Potentially it happened in that Sheffield Wednesday game where they went out the FA Cup. But, it's very hard to spin the plates at that level forever. I think Fulham are a good side. I could see them getting a point. Right. That wraps up banker, bust or draw. And I suppose, Farley, you're going to have to do the illustrious line about digging the passport out for some cheap Ryanair flights for some foreign footy.
Yeah, so new year, new us. We're going on a little January vacation. Obviously, a dry January, so we're going to go to the Middle East because we're not going to have any booze. But no, we're actually going to stop off in France first of all. So cheeky little Eurostar because Jake's got a little bet for, I think it's Sunday night, this one, isn't it?
Yeah, Sunday night, this one. And I thought this week I actually did want to put up a foreign footy pick because I know the last couple of weeks I haven't, but I'm opposing PSG, which is a bit of a madness. They're against Rennes in the league on Sunday, and this is all on stats. So Rennes are unbeaten in 8 games at home this season, and well, it's not just unbeaten; they've won the last 8 games in a row at home. The only game that they lost was the first game of the season. And they've not lost to PSG in the last 3 games that they've played at home too. So all stats points to Rennes or Rennes getting a result here against PSG. And at evens, it's a great price. Now, I don't want to turn around and say PSG is struggling because they're not struggling. Some of the players may still have a little bit of a hangover from the World Cup, but Messi disproved that last night. He came in and got a goal straight away, so I can't really turn around that as a negative for it, but evens is just a good price. I'll even have a little bit of a bet on Rennes to get a result. I think a win on Sunday. So yeah, evens is my pick for that one. Rennes are draw against PSG.
I like it. So I'm going quickly nip from France. We'll probably drive, actually. We'll drive down to the south coast, get a lovely little drive, the Amalfi Coast. Oh, lovely. Then pop into Italy, but then we've got to go all the way down to Napoli. So it's quite a long drive, actually. It's not really
I tell you what, you're paying the petrol for this trip, Farley.
Yeah, I didn't think this out, did I? I just thought France and Italy. Then I actually realised where the games we were playing. But Friday night, I don't really like to talk about Friday night games because, this pod, you're not going to have a huge amount of time to get on this. You might be listening Saturday morning, so I'll keep this very brief. Napoli-Juventus on Friday night. Absolute treat for a Friday night football, I think this. 19-20, you can get on the home side, Napoli. And I just think they weren't my tip to win the league this year. That was Roma. But when you look at how they're doing, they are streets ahead of the other teams in this league. They're good, well, very good at going forward. Pretty damn good defensively, and they come up against a Juve team that not really as lethal up front as we've seen from them in the past. They only scored 26 goals, which I think, everyone else in the top 5 has scored more than them, but they are very, very good defensively, having only given up 7 goals. But if there's one team that can break them down, it is Napoli. And I don't think the Italian teams are as good as the top teams in England or even in Spain, but this team has so much kind of attacking pedigree. You've got Victor Osimhen, who scored 10 goals in 12 starts this season in Serie A. Kvaradona, I think we've spoke about him in the past. Like what an incredibly exciting player he is. Just full of goals, full of assists. I think he's been an absolute revelation for them. I think they have all this attacking talent that they're just going to be able to get past Juventus. And I don't think Juventus are going to really be able to answer them back. So 19-20. I think it's just a really good price for a team that are far better in the competition.
Quick question for you, Farley. Do you reckon you do direct flights from Naples to Ipswich by any chance?
Well, look, I know one thing about Ipswich. Ed Sheeran is a fan, and if there's anybody that can afford a private jet, it is that guy. So Ed. Let's just imagine we've got Ed on speed dial, and he's flying us over to Ipswich versus Plymouth Argyle on Saturday, a game I will be attending, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
He's attended? You're going to Ipswich? Yeah,
I am looking forward to it. But this is one I'm never normally confident about us, even on the road. And we're playing Ipswich, who, for my money, are the best team in the league. despite us obviously being top of League One. But you can get double chance on us, Plymouth or the draw at 20-13, which I just think is really good. Now, I'm not overly confident we'll win there. Otherwise, I would have tipped it up. Sorry, but we are good defensively, and I do think we can kind of lull teams in. We might be able to nick a goal, and even if they equalise, that's fine. We can keep it clean, keep it tight at the back. We played Bolton a week or so ago. Last week, whenever it was, a week or so ago. Last weekend, it was last Saturday. And again, it was pretty boring to watch on the old iFollow, but we were very, very good defensively. Again, they had so many chances, but we just kept them out. And I do think this is something we can do again here. So double chance, 20-13. Really like it.
I love how you said it was boring when Alan McAnally was making it out to be the best game of all time on Soccer Saturday last Saturday. I was like, oh my God, this 0-0 is absolutely amazing.
Like, to be fair, it was good. It was good because it was tense. Yeah. Because I was it was squeaky bum time for being a Plymouth fan for like the last, pretty much the whole of the second half. And we could have nicked it as well. So I guess in that way there was a bit of excitement, but yeah, it wasn't the highest quality game. I don't know.
Fair play.
Well, Jake, I tell you what, you butchered some French earlier. Do you want me to try and butcher some French now with a racing tip?
I'm desperate for you to, please.
I'm looking forward to this.
Well, let's have a chat first of all about the Cheltenham Festival. We are
finally.
Are we 8 weeks away? 9 weeks away? I can't quite tell. I think it's 8. But
8 weeks into waiting for these tips, boss.
Yeah. Well, listen. If those of you that backed Edwardstone at 16s, you're sitting pretty. We've only got to go and beat Energumene at Ascot on the 21st, and we'll be sat on an even money shot from 16s. It's been hard this year, and Cheltenham betting itself. A lot of the firms have 2 firms in particular have gone non-run and no bet really early, and I think the season's been really hard from an anti-post point of view. We had a very weird start to the jump season, sort of October time, where the ground was too firm for a lot of horses. Then we had a December that was decimated by the weather. So it does feel like we've kind of not seen as much of some of these horses as we should have done. Now, listen, that's no excuse, really. I have been watching, but I genuinely haven't been having too many bets on. But there was a horse that ran on New Year's Day at Tremor. Now, this is the butchering of the pronunciation. Quasish de Paris, Willie Mullins colours. You'll see him in the Rich Richie silk, so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The pink and green spots that have won so many races at Cheltenham, and connections have put a lot into the game. Now, the race that he won at Tremor was his first start for the trainer. And I must say, he went off 1-5. He was absolutely smashed up in the betting. And I expected this to be a real romp. And I actually told the 2 boys I backed this horse anti-post prior to the race with the view that he'd absolutely steam into the race, look really impressive and win. Well, he did win. Was he impressive? That's an interesting debate to have. The ground was incredibly heavy that day, unlike what I think you'll get at Cheltenham. I think he'll improve for better ground. And I think he'll go up in trip. So I've taken a little look at things. Willie Mullins has the very short price favourite for the Supreme. I don't think he'll send him there. He's also got other options for that race. But I did think at 20-1 for the Ballymore, which is over 2 miles 5, he could just be a bit of a price. There is a bookmaker out there offering 4 places each way already. And I think you're only going to get 9 running in the race. You won't get 16 in the Ballymore. So I would possibly look at that as a bit of a cheeky each way punt. I think he will improve for better ground in the spring. He may not be quite classy enough to win this. I don't know, but I could foresee him running in it and placing in it. Or potentially he might end up going in the Martin Pipe and we'll do our money in this race. But keep an eye on him. I think he's a nice horse. I think the fact that he went off so short suggests that somebody expected him to be a bit more impressive than he was. But best of luck with the Cheltenham bets. Do shop around. But I would be wary of the non-run and no bet concession this early. I think it just gives bookmakers an excuse to cut prices to ribbons. It's not something I get too excited by. I think it's wrong that punters seem to buzz off it when actually old school anti-post probably gets you better value.
Again, we always say do small stakes on these. Don't go in and do your balls on these Cheltenham picks. It's just really isn't worth it. And as always, gamble responsibly. Farley, now, there's two different picks you've got for us this week. I will start off with the NFL playoffs because, as we know, as we spoke about in the past, I have absolutely no clue on the NFL. But it seems like an exciting year this year in terms of the games that I've watched.
It's been a really good season. Really good season. But saying that, it is the playoffs Saturday. We've got 2 games Saturday, 3 Sunday, and 1 Monday night. I'd say only 2 or 3 of these are overly competitive due to a few things, quarterback injuries, and a couple of weaker teams kind of getting in as wild cards. And I kind of didn't really know which way to go about this from a betting perspective because there was no single that I thought was surefire, at least now when the anytime touchdown score markets aren't out. There's no single that I was surefire I could put up here. I think the Chargers are really good value at 4-6 to beat the Jags. So what I've decided to do instead is I'm just going to go through the lines and I'm just going to tell you which side I would be on in those lines. So go through them super quick. First game, Seahawks at 49ers. I would take Seahawks plus 9.5. Next up is the Chargers at the Jags. I would take Chargers -2. I think that's really, really good price, actually. Then it is Dolphins at Bills. I'm sorry, Sam. Bills -13. There's no Tua Tagovailoa. I can't even say. It's a long day. There's no Tua. There's no Teddy Bridgewater. So it's going to be a third choice quarterback.
-13 is that sounds like a big line to me.
I mean, they're going to get battered, Jake. That's the reality. It's I think Farley makes a fair point, and when you look at how the Dolphins kind of fell into the playoffs rather than excelled to getting there, it's safe to say they crawled over the line. It was pretty poor. I'd like to think we might be competitive, but it'll be a really ugly game if Miami are anywhere near in it, right, Farley?
Yeah, we're pretty much of that. And I generally don't really go near double-digit favourites. I think you're 90. Well, actually, I don't even. The stats won't back this up, but I think you generally are smarter to go on the underdog there. But I just can't see the Bills not hammering them, to be honest with you. Then we got Giants at Vikings. You can get Giants +3, which I think is pretty good because I think they could actually be the underdog that wins this weekend, in my view. Then you've got Ravens at Bengals. This should have been a really good game, but with Lamar Jackson almost certainly missing it, it's probably not. So Bengals -8.5. And then finally on Monday, you got Dallas Cowboys at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Cowboys -2.5. That's where I go there. If you did want to put them in an ACCA, it comes out about 47-1. And obviously some bookies out there do ACCA bonuses, and for a 6-fold, you could get a 25% bonus. So definitely kind of consider shopping around for that. And then finally, Australian Open this weekend. Well, it starts on Monday, or I think 11 p.m. UK time on Sunday night. I kind of cover this for work a bit, so I didn't really know what to put in here. But there's this one little single that I think is really worth taking a look at in the women's draw. Daria Kasatkina, a little Russian 25-year-old. She's 80-1 to win, but she's seeded 8th for the tournament, which doesn't sit right. And when you look at say a well-known odds aggregators boards, there are far kind of shorter names than her seeded far longer. And I know seeding isn't everything, but she comes into this in very good form. I just think this price is wrong. I'm not going to say she's going to win, but I think it's at 80-1. I think if you want just to have a little kind of something to bet on, put £2 on this. You might get 160 back if she wins. I just think it gives you a little something to kind of watch these matches and kind of enjoy. And the Australian Open, we often see kind of, it is possible for outsiders to win. I think the women's game in particular is kind of wide open, even though there is kind of one player better than everybody else. But you only need that person to lose. And this draw is smashed to smithereens. So for me at 80-1, I think it's a really good price.
I like that a lot. It's a massive price. We'll move into TV specials now. And I want to talk Love Island with you guys because I'm not going to sit here now and put tips up and be like, "Oh, this is a great."
Can you confirm you're not going in the villa, Jake? First of all, can you break that
bombshell? I can't confirm that. No, sorry. It lasts for 8 weeks, so 4 weeks time, I'm not on the pod. You know where I am. So Love Island this year again. It starts on Sunday. Starts on Monday. Sorry. Lasts for 8 weeks. And I just want to discuss the markets with you boys a little bit because we did discuss Love Island the last series on the pod, and I'm pretty sure we did tip up Ekinsu at some point at a good
Yeah,
price.
we did.
I know that
Ekinsu and Davide,
yeah, Farley had Ekinsu and Davide. I know it was possible about Ekinsu and Davide.
I think it was you.
Yeah, I can't take any credit for this. Someone put me onto them, but they were 80-1 at one point.
Yeah.
I think I got 25s, but they obviously had a lot of. I guess, Jake, the question I'd have for you is: a lot of these shows, how much reality do you think we see, and how much structuredness do you think there is? Because that felt very strange, didn't it? That Ekinsu and Davide were perceived to have fallen out, wouldn't ever see each other again. Yet plenty of people did back them at massive prices. So are you going to believe everything you see in the Villa this year, or are you going to try and take a bit of a different approach?
I think there are definitely structured storylines that we see in the Villa, and that has been confirmed by previous contestants who have come out since and spoke on podcasts saying that producers have been in arrears and producers have spoke about this and started conversations off with people. I think the key thing is to note that there are going to be a lot of traders with bookmakers who don't watch the show, and they'll just be pricing up the couples based on various tidbits here and there, stuff that you see in papers like news reports. I guarantee that Ekinsu and Davide one would have been a news report that they've had a massive bust up without actually watching the show and seeing that, have they really had a big bust up? Do they look like they could still get it back on? And that's the key thing that I want to say in this market. Take it by what you see on TV yourself. If you see that there's a couple in there that look like a decent couple, look like they're having a good bit of banter, and then you see on social media that they're trending to, but they're a big price, it may be something to have a quid on. It's something, again, that the show lasts 8 weeks. I like these markets, and these markets are ones that I always do have a bet on at some point, just because when you're watching it with the missus, it's not really fun in some parts, and it's something that can make it fun to watch.
Jake, quick question. How important do you think it is who they hand the keys to their social media accounts over to? Because some people...
They're not allowed anymore.
Has this changed?
Yeah.
Because in the old days, it used to be friends and family. And I remember, I can't remember the girl that won it with Jamie. She was very lovely, used to blow up bombs for UNICEF.
Camilla, I think she was called.
Yeah, maybe.
He thinks. He knows.
But I seem to recall that was a very delicate storyline she got stuck into, and she had a very, how should I say this? I think they utilized the Fiat 500 vibe Twitter to really get some traction. So what's the story of their social media now? Is it locked off? Is it ITV get it?
Oh, it's all going to be deactivated for the...
Is that new, or is that something?
Yeah, new, yeah. This is the first season where they're doing it.
It's to stop. It's like there's mental health reasons behind it, I think, because people were getting a lot of, coming back and finding their social media flooded with bad stuff.
Yeah, so it's to stop the families getting abused.
Probably going to happen anyway, but...
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, isn't it? Because I always assume one of the reasons people go on that show is to gain some serious social followings for the deals afterwards that come out. That's the cynic in me. But, okay, that changes the dynamic a bit then, because it's going to... that is quite interesting. But in a way,
it is. So in the past, that's another thing that I have used in terms of putting a bet on, seeing the actual social followers and Instagram followers. Ekinsu already started last year with around 500,000 followers on Instagram, so she already had a big following because she was an actress and so on. And that just kept going up and up and up, and she was just always flying high in terms of Instagram followers than anyone else. So it's not something that we can look on this year, but again, the trending topics on Twitter are going to be big, and just looking what people are saying.
One thing I'd say is, as someone who watches it far more than I'd like to admit, I think the winning couple is generally led by the women, I'd say. Yeah. In terms of like the main popularity for them as a couple is because of the popularity of the women in the couple. So you'd say like Ekinsu last time. Was it Amber years before?
So we need a girl, don't we, Farley, is what you're saying.
I think you just watch those first few episodes, and also that it's inevitably someone who either started or came in the first couple of batches of people. So I think you kind of basically play it off them, and yeah, we'll look for a narrative around them. Is the way I would look at it.
Well, yeah, it's 25-year-old Lana Jenkins who's the favourite anyway. So if that's something that you want to bet on early, the odds is far too short at the minute. It's only like 5-2 for her to be a top female. So, yeah.
Right. Well, thank you, Jake. That concisely rounds off the majority of the show, but we have, of course, got our best bets for the weekend. And I'm going first here because one of us had to put back something at evens or bigger, didn't we? I've got these two odds-on merchants with me, and I'm backing my opinion, which I've already shared. Kane to score or assist, even money. I've explained why if you were listening earlier. So I don't need to go into that in too much detail. Jake, what are you putting up?
Manchester derby, United City, both teams to score. Pretty straightforward, to be honest. It's something that I might even look to double with the other derby for the weekend too. But both teams to score. It's got goals written all over both games, and yeah, that's the game I've picked for this one. 8-13, though, so it is odds on. Stinky.
Yeah, Farley. Let's get your odds on tip, which hasn't been mentioned yet, so we need to talk about it.
Yeah. So, all right, who do you think are the two most boring teams in the Premier League?
West Ham definitely up there, I'd say.
Yeah, I
West
wouldn't
Ham
enjoy
on.
watching Everton, but I think you might suggest that you're going to put Wolves in the mix, but I think they might improve their football a little bit.
I think Wolves are definitely improving. I think Lopetegui looks like someone who's kind of changing their culture a bit. And I think their midfield three, when they're all fit, is actually pretty damn good. Goals are still an issue. I'm not sure if Mateus Cunha is going to be the guy to fix that or not. But ultimately, Wolves play West Ham this weekend, and under 2.5 is 4-6. And I just think this is an absolute brilliant price. West Ham are, I mean, yeah, not overly good. They've scored 15 goals, conceded 24, whereas Wolves have scored 11, just 11 goals, conceded 27. So these are two teams that they basically go into games looking to defend, not win. And they're not even particularly good at that. But I can't see a situation where one team scores 2 goals in this game, and you're going to need that for this to go over. It could be a 1-1, it could be a 0-0, could be a 1-0, but I just cannot see one team getting 2 goals here. So under 2.5 at 4-6, I think it's a really good price. So to wrap that up, you got United City, both teams to score, Kane to score or assist, and Wolves versus West Ham under 2.5. And you can get just a tad over 4-1 on that, which is, I think it's probably one of our shorter at odds pod trebles, but it's one I've got to say I do like the sound of.
Yeah, nice thread to it. Start off that Saturday lunchtime and we'll roll from there. Guys, brilliant to have you both with me. Massive thank you for everyone for watching. Please do like, share, tell your friends about the podcast if you enjoy our content. It is really important for us that we get some sort of notification to say that you guys are enjoying it, because it helps. And add your comments below. Do tweet us at any point. We will try and put some more stuff out on Twitter so you can engage with our conversation, polls, and that kind of thing. So we love to hear what you guys are thinking. We don't sit here and proclaim to be experts at everything. We just enjoy a bet responsibly and like to share what we're backing with yourselves. And if you enjoy it and follow them and they win, happy days. If they lose, don't come break our kneecaps. Lads, brilliant fun as ever. Covered a lot in this week's show. Look forward to being back next week. Thank you for joining me.